The story begins with Rick being kicked out of the heroes' party, the highest-ranking group, those who confront the monsters rampant in this world and save the land of El Dorado. 1 month earlier, Lord Hines, second prince of the Grandine Empire, asked Rick for a replacement sword when they were inside a dungeon. Rick rushed to give it to him. Sasha seemed worried about Lord Hines and said he should act with more caution. Lord Hines told her that no small fry could possibly withstand his swordsmanship. While preparing for an attack, he told her that protecting the commoners was also a hero's duty. Rick used his windstorm magic and might magic while thinking about how Lord Hines was charging in too far. Lord Hines attacked the monster and used mana break to kill it. As expected of him, he defeated the monster with one clean attack. Rick said it was truly an instant kill, though exhaustion afterward was dangerous. But Sasha said it was Rick's magic. Confused, Rick asked her if she had always seen it. Lord Hines asked Rick if he thought he would lose without his support magic and ordered him not to meddle unnecessarily. Rick obeyed him, but he knew it was just in case. While Fennis and Lord Hines were walking next to each other, Sasha noticed something and told them to get away from there. Confused, they wondered what that thing was under their feet. It was a summoning magic circle and it summoned countless monsters. Rick used windstorm magic to protect them from the first attack. Sasha told everyone that the summoned monsters should be forcibly banished once time passes. Lord Hines asked Rick to help him because he came first, but that was too reckless, and Rick wondered if he couldn't see what was happening. Hines then said they were going to regroup for now and ordered them to keep their distance, eliminate them one by one from behind. Fennis told Rick to create an opening and he was surprised, but he did it anyway and charged in with windstorm magic. While he was trying to hold off the monsters by himself, Fennis and Hines started running away. Hines turned to him and told him that the rest was up to him. Rick couldn't believe his eyes. They used him as bait and started running away. From the whole group, only Sasha opposed this plan and decided to save Rick. She used flame arrow magic and attacked the monsters. Hines told her not to interfere because she might distract them from Rick, but she said she couldn't overlook what the prince had done, and she was going to report this to the king. Now that the king was mentioned, Hines had to give a signal to Layla, and she started dragging Sasha. Sasha resisted her, but then she used her weapon to knock her off. Rick watched the people whom he called his comrades leaving him behind. While fighting for his life, he questioned what could be the reason for this betrayal. He wondered if it was because he was from a viscount's family, or he was a bastard son, or he was a support mage. Nonetheless, he was dedicated to surviving no matter what. However, one of the monsters attacked him badly, and he was injured. He couldn't even use his magic power and just lay down on the floor in his own blood. He thought this was going to be the end. When he closed his eyes, he saw a bunch of memories from his old life. Those memories were of Rick's. He realized something and then heard someone talking to him. A goddess appeared and asked him if he remembered it. He said yes, but the memories of the moment he died last time were still in a void. He was unconsciously sealing those memories, because it was a traumatic event for him. She told him that he didn't need to force himself to recall it. He could remember that he died protecting someone, but the person he saved ended up dying anyway. He thought he had died again now, but the goddess told him that she had intervened with divine power because the power she bestowed upon him still hadn't been used. Rick was shocked because he thought he had been reincarnated and received support magic. The goddess explained that that was something he earned through his own effort. Originally, it was meant to awaken once he turned 16. What she truly bestowed upon him was creation hold magic. This magic grants the enhancement of existing spells and the ability to create all things. The goddess said he was going to understand it when the time came, and kissed his forehead, saying it was time to awaken. He still had so many questions, but the goddess sent him out while praying for happiness in his life. When he opened his eyes, he was feeling dizzy and saw a lot of blood, which made him wonder if that was a dream. However, when he looked around him, he confirmed that it wasn't a dream because all the monsters were injured and seemed dizzy. Though he was still surrounded by monsters, he could feel the power overflowing within him. What he envisioned was Sasha from just now when she used flame arrow magic. But he wanted to make it even hotter and created blue flames. The blue flames pierced through every single monster and burned them to death. When he defeated them, he couldn't stand straight because it wasn't just the power, it consumed an enormous amount as well. He couldn't even keep his eyes open and fainted there. When he opened his eyes, his face was wet from tears, and he heard someone apologizing to him. It was Sasha, and the others were also here. Hines said he was a lucky fellow for being able to survive. Even in this situation, he tried to take credit for this win as everyone was saved. Rick recalled what the goddess said and noticed that she didn't tell him to use the power he received to save the world. When he returned, he was wondering whether he still had a reason to stay at the hero's party. His door was knocked, and it was Sasha paying him a visit. She asked how he was feeling, and he assured her that he was perfectly fine now. Sasha mentioned that he was always saving her. She reminded him of the first time they met, and he recalled that she was a noble lady in disguise. Rick would never forget this story. 4 years ago, she was about to be kidnapped in town, and he saved her. He mentioned that her outfit really stood out in the streets. He even ended up beaten badly that time too. Sasha was annoyed that he was teasing her, but she still stood up and said he looked so cool. She was then so embarrassed that she ran away after saying she would check on him again. Until then, Rick was just a commoner. But after saving 2 daughters of a duke's family, he was fortunate enough to be taken in as the second son of the Newfield family. That was the only reason he was able to join the hero's party. Even now, being able to speak freely with Sasha was thanks to that. If not, then he might end up losing his only friend, Sasha. But he wondered if it would be permissible as a noble to do something as irresponsible as leaving the hero's party of his own accord. It could even lead to something much worse, and that wasn't all. Heinz could find an excuse to drive him out of town. That wasn't even the worst thing, because if things went badly, his father, the king, might punish him. And he could not let that happen. Leaving the party was way too dangerous, and even though he wanted so much, he decided that he would have to do that. Back to the present, Rick was complaining about why he had to pay everyone's inn fees. Heinz responded that it was because he was useless. Rick told him that his wallet was completely empty, but Heinz didn't care. Heinz asked if he realized who he was addressing while acting all cocky when he talked back to him. He pushed him and said he was a prince. When he pushed him, Rick dropped a book, and Fennis and Layla noticed. They seemed shocked when they opened the book and immediately gave it back to Heinz. When Heinz opened the book and read what was written, he asked Rick what it was. Rick started to have a whole breakdown because Heinz saw his daily complaints, his true feelings as a man, and his desires. His entire diary's been exposed to him. He wondered if the family would find out he would be expelled. Even though he was appointed by imperial decree, if the king heard about this, he had no idea what would happen to him. The girls thought he had finally lost his mind. Heinz decided to grant his wish and told Rick that he was expelled from the hero's party. There were no objections from the girls, including Sasha, because she had no choice but to follow his will. Heinz told him to never show his face before them again and left. The inn owner asked if he was okay because he seemed like he really lost it after being abandoned by Prince Heinz like that. But when Rick went to a safer place, he started to celebrate that his plan worked. Now he didn't have to keep adventuring with that selfish prince. Sasha probably hated him now, but he aimed for this outcome so it couldn't be helped. But being expelled from the party would not go unnoticed by his family. His plan worked out, but the head of the house, Gordo, wouldn't stay silent about this for sure. If he thought he was useless and disowned him, that would actually be the best. He thought about running away, but if it looked like he had run, his mother's life would be in danger too. He really needed to hurry to Dordland. When he finally made it after 3 days of walking, he was so tired. But he did get to test his Genesis magic along the way, and learned quite a bit, so it wasn't all bad. Now he was wondering what kind of act he should put on. Since he burned too much MP, he couldn't really think straight. While walking around, a girl was trying to lift a wooden box and accidentally hit him. He ended up on the floor without even knowing. Panicked, the girl apologized. She was then distracted when she noticed his face. It felt like she had seen him before. She then came together and started apologizing to him. She noticed the single gold line on his collar and said she didn't realize he was from Newfield House. Rick told her that it was fine and he was practically a commoner now. After that, he helped her lift the boxes and asked if there was anything else he could help her with. She said he had already helped her enough. Rick patted her head and complimented her on how diligent she was in running errands for her family, but then realized that to a stranger this might be too familiar. However, she seemed to like it. But then she realized what he said and explained that she came here to buy stock for her own shop. He thought she was just a servant. He said it was amazing to be the owner of a shop. She thanked him for everything and asked him to visit her shop if he was ever in Zurich. Zurich was in the Jilk commercial nation. That's where Rick's mother's family was living. He waved at her and told her to take care of the road as she left in her carriage. While she was going, he tried to remember her name but couldn't, but he felt like they were going to meet again. Suddenly he felt something from behind and there was a private carriage with a hawk crest appeared. He couldn't believe his eyes because it had only been 3 days since he left the party. An old butler appeared and told Rick that the young lady was waiting for him. Rick expected her to respond to this quickly. The young ladies he saved 4 years ago were 2. Sasha and Amelia, the person who was sitting inside the carriage. She was also Rick's fiancée. Amelia asked if she understood what it meant to be expelled from the hero's party. He said he would be cast out from the Viscount family and their engagement would be annulled. He said that he was originally just a commoner and he was okay with going back to that. Amelia noticed that he seemed oddly happy about it. She noticed that he had changed somehow. His engagement with her only worked because he was at the same party as the first prince. Now everything was void and he had nothing. Suddenly, Amelia took out her socks and told him to look at his head and kneel before her. When he obeyed her words, she said she would give him a chance. Rick asked what she meant, and she lifted his head with her toes, saying he could still remain a noble. She said she wasn't forcing him, and it was his choice not to accept, but she asked him to think about it. Being able to remain a noble and not be targeted by the Emperor was a good deal. What she was saying was true. Being disowned by Newfield was certain, and depending on Heinz's actions, he could even be targeted by the Emperor. And not just him, even his mother could get dragged in. But even so, he said that was disgraceful of her, and he decided that he wouldn't hesitate anymore. Amelia didn't expect an answer like this and asked him if he dared to defy her. Before he left the carriage, he told Amelia that he was grateful for all her past kindness. When he left the carriage, the butler asked if this was truly his decision. Rick confirmed him and said thanks to this, he had found his resolve. After all, their statues were different. The butler seemed genuinely upset because when Amelia was with him, her smile was unmatched. It was a smile she never showed them. Rick didn't expect him to say that. In the next scene, Rick arrived at Newfield household. He was hiding because it had been a while since he had last seen his real father. He did have a plan, but he wasn't sure how well the fake gold made by magic would hold up. However, the guards didn't let him in the first time. He told them that he was actually the second son here. Apparently, Lord ordered them not to let anything through him. He was aware of that, but he wanted to speak with his brother. But his brother came and told him not to call him brother. His name was Deid, and he called him a worthless fool abandoned by Lord Heinz. Rick noticed that he had grown bigger since the last time he saw him. Deid said he was against the idea of taking a commoner to their house from the start. But Rick offered him the bag and said it was a small gift for him. Deid asked if he really thought this pitiful money would buy forgiveness, but when he saw the jar inside the bag, he was shocked. He told him that this jar was in the mansion's medicine shelf and he stole it. He thought Rick was trying to poison him. It was pretty hard to believe he shared blood with this guy. Their father, Gordo, arrived and told them to be quiet. Deid said Rick tried to poison him and he assumed Rick hated that he was the rightful heir. He said he had forgotten his favor and sought to overthrow the Newfield family for his own position. While he was showing him the jar, Rick confirmed that they had already planned to kick him out. Gordo said he thought Rick had some use, but after being branded incompetent by Lord Heinz and annulling engagement by the Duke's daughter, his father confirmed that he was just the child of a low-born woman. Rick was furious and told him to take it back. Gordo said it was the truth. Rick told him that if he was incompetent, it was because his blood runs in him. His father hit him hard and told him that he was no longer of Newfield. He told him to leave behind every proof of their house and never show his face before him again. He also told him to take his mother away from this town as well, because he knew what would happen otherwise. This whole thing was actually more than he could have hoped for. A noble's command was absolute, and with this, he could take his mother away without issue. However, Deid came back and told him not to think that he and his mother would leave without their bodies intact. He couldn't believe he was going to chase them. Rick went to where his mother lived as soon as possible. It felt like time had stopped because the town's appearance, even its smell, was the same as 4 years ago. When he arrived at their house, all he could think about was leaving this town before Deid's pursuers caught up. When he knocked on the door, it immediately opened and his mother jumped on him. She was so happy that he was back. Rick was happy that his mother was looking well and asked how she knew he was coming. She said she was proud of her son and that he had grown into such a fine young man. She didn't know what had happened, so she asked why he was naked. She gave him what was left at home. It was fine quality cloth, so he wasn't sure. He knew this must be a very treasured cloth for her, so he decided to use this for her. Using this material, he imagined clothes that suited his mother, and with his creation, Holy Magic, he created a beautiful dress for his mother. Her mother was shocked and said it was like magic. He said he learned to do it during his travels. She said that it was wonderful, and it made her feel like she could cook better too. However, the dinner didn't look too appetizing. He tried to eat it, but it was so bitter. It wasn't just her mother's cooking skill that was the problem. Vegetables grown on poor land with that harsh, salty taste were also torture. He then remembered that he had magic, and he lightly boiled chicken bones and aromatic vegetables, skimmed the scum, concentrated, and solidified it. It was a recreated dish from his previous life. After much trial and error, he managed to create a chicken consommé. He told his mother to try it once, even if she didn't believe him. She was excited about the idea of magical seasoning and decided to try it. She really liked how it tasted and said the soup had so many flavors. She really liked how it tasted but didn't want to be a waste and wanted to save it. Rick comforted her and said he could make it any time. She said she wanted her grandfather and grandmother to taste it as well. Rick seemed pretty excited and wanted to visit them right now. He couldn't let them worry and decided not to say anything unnecessary. He said that she hadn't been back home in so long, and if she was with him, they could still get through the gates while he still had a noble status. She said that was true and mentioned that she was just thinking of returning home herself. He was surprised because commoners shouldn't be able to move freely in or out of the country, yet his mother thought about this. She said there was no time and they should depart at once. He asked if she wasn't going to pack, but she said they hardly own anything anyway. Suddenly they heard Deid's voice. He was asking people if they had seen Rick and they started giving different directions. Deid got angry and his men started beating up the poor. Rick came out of the house and told him to stop it. He said they were leaving town just as he demanded and asked him to let those people go. Deid asked if he really dared to give him orders and threw him the cold coin he gave him. He said he couldn't fool his eyes with forging fake gold coins, but Rick said it wasn't him who saw through it, it was his servant. Deid got even madder now that he was mocking him and told him to get ready for this. But Rick knew he was all bark and no bite. They told him to stand still and let Deid beat him. They also caught his mother. They asked if they could do whatever with that woman if they took down Rick, and Deid permitted them. He called her a slut and a dim-witted woman. Whether she was some merchant's daughter or whatever, if she could sleep with a man she didn't love, that wasn't different from what he called her. Rick tried to save his mother, but he was caught by 4 men. His mother told him to stop and forget about her. Deid suddenly said it was laughable that she was pretending to be a family while ignoring the past and asked how anyone could love a child carrying Gold's blood. He told her to tell him the truth, but she said that when he was born he was very cute. Deid didn't understand a single thing. When Rick started to cry, they made fun of him for losing his nerve. But then he punched the 2 guys who were holding him with his mighty creation magic. Without even getting a scratch, he defeated them and used Windstorm Creation hold magic to save his mother. Deid was shocked because he didn't know Rick was that strong, as he was only chosen for the hero's party through connections. As he started walking towards him, Deid started freaking out and told him that killing between nobles was forbidden. Rick reminded him that he had already been expelled from the Newfield family. His mother heard him and he apologized for not telling her. She said that he had nothing to apologize for and that he would always be rich no matter what. Rick decided to let Deid go this time since his mother was here, but he told him that if he ever came after them again, he would crush him like that rock he crushed. Deid was so scared that he pissed himself. After that, Rick and his mother started their journey. Meanwhile, the girl Rick helped when he got kicked out of the party was trying to run away from the bandits. Expelling from both the hero's party and the Newfield family just as planned, Rick departed the Grandine Empire with his mother and headed toward his homeland, the commercial nation of Jilk. On their way, he killed lots of monsters and was complimented. The man who was riding the horses said the story of him defeating 10 minotaurs at once might not be a lie after all. His mother asked if it was true, and he confirmed that it was, even though they didn't believe him. The man said escort fees around here had risen, and they were in trouble, so he hoped they could rely on each other. He thanked the man for lending him his sword. His mother asked Thomas to take care of them until they reached the commercial nation of Jilk. When they were passing through a forest, it was pretty peaceful, and it was hard to believe monsters even existed. His mother asked if he should rest a little, but he said no. Compared to when he traveled with Heinz, this was nothing. He said he was fine, and they never knew what might happen. He heard something and noticed some horses. He spotted bandits riding them. Thomas said they hadn't noticed them yet and wondered what they were chasing. Rick saw a wagon ahead and its guard was defeated. The horses were panicking, and they would overturn. There was also no coachman. Thomas said they should pass through the highway as they were. It was just a little further. However, when Rick looked at the carriage again, he saw the girl from before crying in panic. Without even thinking, he decided to save whoever was in the wagon. Thomas told him to stop because the bandits would catch up at any moment. He wanted to help them too, but it was already too late. But Rick said that person was still alive and was calling for help. Thomas thought about it for a moment and asked how he was going to save them because he couldn't lend him this wagon or his horses. He said he was going to run there and then left. Thomas didn't expect him to be this fast. Unfortunately, the bandits caught up to her and entered her wagon. As he was talking about selling her money, Rick came and attacked him and asked if she was all right. He said that it was dangerous out there and told her to jump down. They left the carriage, and Rick held the girls in his arms. She thanked him for saving her, but the bandits were still coming and she said he was going to get killed too. Rick noticed how kind she was, worrying about others before herself. When they were surrounded, the bandits asked Rick who he was. Rick put her down and told her to leave the rest with him. The bandits started attacking and he used his windshield creation to protect the girl and himself. When the bandits were shocked, he saw the opening and beat them up. The girl was amazed and thanked him for saving her. Her name was Luna and she called him a hero. He said he wasn't a hero and his name was Rick. Luna asked if they had met before when she heard his name. He thought she was talking about Dordland, but she said it was even before that. Certainly when they met recently, it didn't feel like the first time. But Rick didn't remember her, and he said if it were someone as cute as her, there was no way he would forget. Embarrassed, Luna thanked him. Seeing her cheeks red, Rick realized that he was flirting with her now. Suddenly, one of the bandits came out of the bushes and caught Luna. He said he was going to finish his job as requested, but Rick rushed and slashed his head off without even thinking. The moment he killed him, he realized that he had just killed someone. He started having a hard time breathing and tried to comfort himself that they attacked him first, and if he hadn't killed him, he would be dead. That was how this world worked, and he knew that well, but still, this was his first time killing a man. The feeling of skin tearing, the sensation of flesh being cut, the jolt when bones snapped, the warmth of the blood splattering, the look on his face before he died, it was all stuck in his head now. He was disgusted by the idea and felt like his head was about to explode. But when Luna grabbed his hand, he came back to the real world. She asked if this was his first time killing someone. Rick said that in this world, living meant stealing, deceiving, using others, and even killing. It was all commonplace, and he found it pathetic. But Luna told him that taking lives was a common thing in this world. But if someone could kill without hesitation, she would despise them. Yet the one who protected her, she could never think of him as pathetic. She said that he was her savior. Rick realized that she was a strong person because she must have been afraid herself, yet she was the one comforting him. He held her hand and thanked her. He said he was fine now and stood up. Luna was glad she could be of help. She then apologized for saying something so self-important. Thomas and his mother came and asked if he was all right. He was glad that his mother and the others were safe now too. Luna apologized and stood up right away. Suddenly, Rick grabbed Luna and started carrying her. He said that he was going to carry her back to the wagon they came in for now. She was okay with that and asked him to keep holding her like this. She then realized what she meant and said she meant carry her back like this, but Rick was already amazed enough to carry her forever. Thomas was glad both of them were safe. When his mother saw Rick carrying Luna, she said he brought home a bride and embarrassed both of them. But she kept going, asking if it was love at first sight. Thomas mentioned how he ended up catching that monk's kindness, and now he was out here helping people. Luna was so grateful to them for listening to her selfish request. Rick's mother was glad both the coachman and the cargo were safe. Luna thanked Maris for her kindness. Maris said she could call her mother-in-law and embarrass them again. Rick said it was thanks to Luna saying she wanted to go back to the carriage, he was able to put his feelings in order. They saw a substitute for a grave. Rick said it was his own way of bringing closure to this matter. Protecting wasn't a mistake, and he decided not to draw his sword while losing his reason. When they arrived at Jilk Commercial Nation, the guards stopped their carriage to check the cargo. But when they saw Luna and Ananto, they were shocked. They informed the guards that they had been attacked by bandits. Guards were glad that they were safe. Luna explained that it was Rick who helped them. The guards startled Rick for a moment, but then thanked him for saving them. He then remembered that he had captured the bandits and showed them. They were shocked by his magic, but Ananto seemed to get used to it and even felt proud. The guards said they would take care of the bandits now and welcomed them. Rick thanked Thomas for everything. He wanted to apologize about the sword he borrowed, but he said he could always earn more later, and he didn't need to worry about what had already happened. He told him to think of it as payment for the escort. After that, Thomas mentioned that he was going to do business in this city for a couple of months and make some profit. He wanted to ask for permission, but he wasn't sure if Zaji, the representative, was at the shop. Rick's mother seemed excited to hear the name Zaji, and he wondered if she knew him. But Zaji was Luna's father, and she explained that he passed away last month. They were shocked because he was younger than Thomas. He asked if it was an illness, and she said it might be an accident or he might get attacked by monsters. But on his way back from shopping, he didn't return. Thomas prayed that he rest in peace and apologized for making her remember it. He asked who was running the city now, and she said it would be decided in the next representative election. In fact, it was Wales who managed things. Zurich's products were monopolized by the Wales Trading Company. It seemed like a new commercial faction. They were the ones in conflict with the Moondrop Trading Company. Rick asked if Luna came to buy in Dordland because she thought that if she left Zurich, business might go a little better. Ananto assumed she ran for the representative election, and she said she wanted to revitalize the Moondrop Trading Company. Rick was pretty surprised because Luna was running to obey the city's representative when she looked pretty young. He asked how old she was, and she said she was 15 now. Rick didn't know they could still run for representative at this age. Thomas asked if there were other candidates, and she said it was just her and Wales. Thomas stated that the bandits who attacked the young lady might have been sent by the Wales Trading Company. There were 2 candidates, and Wales would be happy if she disappeared. Luna was shocked and said there was no concrete evidence, but Rick heard the man saying he was going to complete the task. Those bandits were targeting Luna on someone's orders, and now they couldn't get any information from them. Ananto suggested it would be better to make the ones they caught talk. He said he would drop by where the guards were and leave them there. Thomas said it was better if they kept silent about what happened on the road. Luna had no power, but he was on the side of the Moondrop Trading Company, and he said that if she got into trouble, she could always trust Rick. Rick was shocked and said he had just said they should trust Thomas. He said that if it was something that could be solved with money, they could, and that's why what he couldn't do, Rick would do. When Thomas left, Rick's mother mentioned how interesting he was. Luna asked them what they were planning to do from now on, and he said he had his mother's house in her hometown, and it was a food shop called Karen. Luna said she had always helped the Moondrop Trading Company a lot. Rick wasn't expecting those connections. She said she would accompany them up to a point because the Moondrop Trading Company was on its way to Karen's shop. When they arrived at the Moondrop Trading Company, they helped her with the cargo, and she thanked them. A maid got out of the shop and she seemed quite worried. Luna said she just got back. Nina the maid noticed Rick and his mother and asked if they were business clients. Luna introduced Rick and Maris as the people who helped them on the shopping trip. Nina introduced herself too and said they took very good care of the young lady, and they would come by later to thank them. Luna wanted to go too, but Nina said she was busy not only with the shop, but also with the representative election. Rick and Maris told her that she didn't need to worry, and she could always come visit them. When Luna and Nina left, a man called for Maris and grabbed her shoulder. He hesitated for a moment and said it reminded him a lot of someone he knew, but Maris recognized Val and said how it had been a long time. Val was happy to see her because it had been 16 years since she got married. Maris noticed his uniform and assumed he was a guard. She remembered how he said he would protect the city's safety like his father did. Val wondered who was behind her and she said it was her son. She told Rick that Naval was her childhood friend. Rick greeted him and Val said he had heard rumors that he was strong. Rick didn't expect him to know that he was in the hero group. Maris made him embarrassed again, saying he defeated the bandits all by himself. Val's captain was calling him, so he said they should calmly share stories from the past next time they had a chance. Maris said she was looking forward to it. After that, they started walking around and saw a giant building. Maris said it used to be a fruit shop. Rick read what they were selling, and it was like a great warehouse from the previous world. He then saw the Whales Trading Company's name. A man started talking, thanking everyone for coming. He was the Whales of the Whales Trading Company. This person was the one who was suspected of ordering the bandits to eliminate Luna. The man mentioned that monsters have increased outside the city and assumed they must be concerned about whether they could get safe and reliable food. However, their Whales Trading Company had secured the food production line in Zurich, and by working closely with the surrounding cities, they wouldn't cause problems for anyone. All the safe and reliable products were in their shop, and they could see for themselves. He said that under no circumstances should they allow his competitor, the Moondrop Trading Company, to win. He said that the previous representative certainly had some power and provided acceptable products to all of them. But just because the daughter of the previous representative had taken over, it didn't mean they could have a better life. Just by looking at the poor quality products of the Moondrop Trading Company, they could understand. He said that if they ate those vegetables and meats, their stomach would get hurt. There were some people among the city folk, forced laughing to make him seem good, but it was obvious that they were actors. Wales told them to give a vote to Wales on the election day after tomorrow. When he turned his back after his speech, Rick saw his guard and he looked a little intimidating. Maris said he was very popular, but Rick didn't like this kind of speed. He didn't like the way he belittled his opponent. Maris agreed with him and said they had to support Luna much more. She said she would give her 100 billion votes, but she didn't seem like she knew how an election worked. Neither he nor his mother had been in the city for long, so he said they couldn't vote. In the next scene, they finally arrived at Karen's shop. This place was his mother's home. For his mother, it was the first time she had returned in 16 years. For him, it was the first time, so he had to greet and introduce himself. He suddenly realized that this was the child of the man who stole half of his mother's life from them, and whom they didn't even want to see, so he started to get really nervous. He assumed Maris would be nervous too, but she entered the house without hesitation. A young-looking woman was there, and she asked if she was Maris. Rick had no idea that his mother had a sister. While they hugged each other, Rick realized that his mother really had a hard time living in the slums for 16 years. Maris then introduced Rick to her. Rick said it was nice to meet her and mentioned how he didn't know his mother had a sister. Maris seemed confused at first and then said she was her sister. Maris told Rick not to play with her and called Karen Mom. Karen introduced herself again, but this time she told him that she was his grandmother. Rick couldn't believe his eyes because if she was his mother's mom, that means she was around 50 years old, and she didn't seem to have changed at all in appearance. Rick bowed to her and apologized for being rude. An old man opened the door and saw Maris. They immediately hugged each other while crying their eyes out because her father blamed himself for what happened to her. If he hadn't let himself be carried away by immediate business, if he hadn't gone to that city and met that man, he would have been able to protect her from this. He had been feeling the guilt ever since that happened, and said he couldn't even forgive himself even if he died. Rick could see that his grandfather had also been suffering all this time. Her father was glad that she was safe. Maris said it was her son who protected her, and it was also thanks to him that they were able to return. Rick bowed to him and introduced himself. He seemed pretty scary and didn't react to him for a moment. Rick was sure he was about to get hit by him, but he didn't do anything and turned his back on him. Maris asked if they could live together from now on, and she said, of course. She then turned to Dago and called him the grandfather, but he didn't seem to like that nickname. He told them to do as they wished and said they were closing the shop for today. Rick was hoping not to be received with enthusiasm, but this really hurt him. However, Maris and Karen said his grandfather was incredibly happy. Maris said even if he didn't show it, inside he was dancing with joy. Rick started to question if he would be able to get along with his grandfather now. Maris's room had always been ready for her to use, and there was a room available for Rick. Meanwhile, in his room, Daigo was processing what was going on, and just like Maris and Karen said, he was over the moon. He was so glad he was alive, and on top of that, his grandson looked like him, a real handsome man. But then he didn't want to be arrogant because he had a talent capable of winning over all the women in the world. Being able to see his grandson's face every day from now on made him feel like he was in heaven. It seemed they would be able to create many memories and have a happy old age. And if he were also a handsome man and an exemplary son, his popularity would increase even more. He suddenly started worrying because his adorable grandson could be seduced and even deceived, so he decided to choose a good partner for him. But if they were talking about someone who matched Rick, he couldn't think of anyone other than Luna from the Moon Trading Company. Next time, he decided to introduce her himself. That way, Rick would fall in love with her, and his reputation for having introduced them would soar through the roof. At dinner, Rick made beef stew. Karen found it amazing that he could make such delicious food with magic. Maris came and said the bread and everything were delicious. Daigo told Maris that she got too excited over just a little broth, but he had already finished eating, which meant that he liked it. After that, they wished each other good night and returned to their room for a good night's sleep. However, when Rick returned to his room, he used his detection magic and started watching someone. It was heading somewhere that made him wish that his hunch was wrong. 2 days before Wales and Luna's contested election, Rick decided to mark Val out of curiosity, even though he hoped that he was just a patrol. He was watching him with his magic, and he seemed to go to an empty place. Before he could detect his destination, Val stopped. He wondered if that was some guard shift change, but it couldn't be. He used his night vision skill to see clearly and spotted the man who was with Wales. They saw them talking but couldn't hear them from where he was. He enhanced his hearing about 5 times that of a normal person and started listening to them. Val apologized for keeping him waiting. The man's name was Noise. They seemed to know each other. Noise said Luna had returned and she was unharmed. Val explained that it was because of that man named Rick. Rick realized what this was about. Their conversation during the day, he didn't say that just because he was in the former hero's party, they knew it was him alone who defeated the bandits. Whether he was his mother's acquaintance or not, Navel was guilty. Noise told him that they were paying him handsomely and even lent him men, yet failure cannot be excused. Navel felt deeply apologetic for that. Elections, no matter how favorable the odds, cannot be predicted until the results, even if his father oversees the election management. A private meeting between a candidate's associates and election overseers was utterly disqualifying. He wondered if this was Wales's order. Noise told Val that if Lord Wales wins, the treatment of the guards would improve beyond now. Despite the rising monsters, the value of their lives was far less than in other towns. He couldn't imagine that the girl had thought it through that after all. Val stated that they had a strategy that would guarantee Lord Wales's victory. Noise said he wouldn't expect much, but he would wait. Just in case, they were going to arrange a way to topple the Moon's drop trading company in a legal manner. To make Luna lose the election, both the Guard and Wales's faction were going to move. Noise wanted him to ensure no mistakes in the next 2 days and left. From today's observations, he couldn't even tell who was on Wales's side. Even if he exposes them, no one would trust the word of a newcomer who has just arrived in town. He thought about telling Luna and his family. But even if Luna accused them after hearing, they would say it was a scheme to sabotage Wales and it would backfire. That means he needed solid evidence to expose their fraud. But the election was the day after tomorrow, so he didn't know what he should do. Val was still standing in the meeting area and he talked to himself, questioning something about Maris, Rick's mother. The next day, Rick continued watching Navel and Noise. Navel was on patrol from morning. Noise was Wales's bodyguard. Their store was large, so a lot of supplies were coming in. It didn't seem like there was any conspicuous movement. His door was knocked on and Karen asked if he had any troubles since coming here. He said he haven't had one and he even had his own room. Above all, with his mother, grandmother, and grandfather around, he had nothing to complain about. She told him that if anything troubles him, he could just say it to her. Rick decided to ask about the previous representative of the Moon Trading Company. He wondered what kind of man he was. Karen responded that he was a truly good man. He excelled at appraising goods, and he donated to churches and orphans. He was virtuous. Rick assumed he must have been good at business too, if he was skilled at appraising. Karen said he was competent, but he was so good with people that, naturally, others gathered around him. Rick could figure that the relationship between Zaji and the townsfolk must have been very good. While they were talking, Rick's mother informed him that he had a visitor. Curious, he stood up to leave the room. Karen told him that whatever it was, they should talk again sometime. When Rick went to the restroom, he saw Luna. She came to bring thanks. She said that she would visit again properly after the election, Maris thanked her for helping even though she was busy with deliveries. Rick asked if she was doing them all alone. She said she wanted to finish delivering them all today no matter what. Rick decided to go help her out. Rick's grandfather overheard them and was shocked that they met. His plan to raise his sister's stock as their Cupid was ruined. Luna and Rick delivered the goods to everyone, and thanks to Rick, she could deliver them faster. Rick noticed that all those shops were long-standing acquaintances. She said that to her father, they were like comrades or family, and she wanted to protect that, which is why she was running for the representative job. Suddenly they heard someone screaming the word terrible. A bunch of guys saw Luna and mentioned how she almost got killed by bandits. They were from Wales's operatives. Luna didn't care about their attitude and asked what this commotion was. The man who screamed said they had picked a fight with their store's goods, but they objected, saying that they just gave an honest evaluation as customers. They started making fun of the goods and asked who would even buy this. They were blaming Moonsdrop and the trading company for this, and it seemed that even these customers were being swayed into labeling them. Luna explained that it was because the Wales Trading Company had brought up all the vegetables around Zurich, and they only got the leftovers. But he said that was strange because buying in bulk lowers the cost, so they could also sell cheaply to customers. Lord Wales was only doing what a merchant naturally does and asked if they were breaking the law. The customer said people would just buy the cheap ones normally. They seemed to like the Wales Trading Company better, but Rick could see that they all looked like shills. The man grabbed the shopkeeper and said his business was done for at this rate, and he told him to quit Moonsdrop and join Wales. He promised him to supply him with fresher vegetables and he would profit more. When the shopkeeper said he owed a debt to the late head of the Moonsdrop, he said he was gone now, and it didn't matter. They told him to tell them their answer next time and left. The shopkeeper apologized for not being able to outright refuse their offer. Luna said it was she who should apologize for making him sell such vegetables. Rick tried to think of something to do and asked the shopkeeper if he could let them stock the goods from Dordland. He risked his life to get. Luna tried to interrupt, but the shopkeeper said he would be glad to help him. They showed him salt from Dordland, and Luna said she would love to sell this for 10 silver coins. But the man said that wouldn't do because the Wales Trading Company was selling the same thing for 8 silver coins. This news wasn't good, especially right before the day of the election. In this world, even salt with poor flavor was considered a luxury item. A single silver coin holds the same value as 10,000 yen. The difference between 10 coins and 8 was no small matter. If the origin and quality were the same, naturally, one would choose the cheaper option. Rick figured that this was what Noise meant when he said they had a strategy to bring down the Moonsdrop Trading Company. They knew Luna was sourcing salt, and Wales purchased a massive amount of salt from the same region, and began selling it at a lower price at the exact same time as the Moonsdrop Trading Company. And the salt the people got from Luna wasn't selling at all. Luna apologized to everyone and said she never imagined the Wales Trading Company had acquired such a vast supply. The shopkeepers explained to her that even though they wanted to support her, both in the election and in business, when a company that large sets its sights on them, they were powerless. Rick wondered if they were afraid of the Wales Trading Company, but they were merchants. From a profit and loss perspective, switching from Moonsdrop Trading to Wales was the logical choice. Luna thanked everyone for supporting the Moonsdrop Trading Company since the days of its former head. Shocked, they asked if she really didn't think she would shut down the company because she would be buried in debt at this rate. A rough count shows around 300 jars of salt, worth 3,000 silver coins, which meant 30 million yen in debt. They asked what she was going to do. She said that she had connections and they didn't need to worry about her. They told her not to hesitate to ask if there was anything they could do for her. The moment they left, Luna started crying her eyes out. Worried, Rick hugged her to comfort. Luna was the only one getting hurt here and she was pretending to have connections just so no one else would worry. He asked why she was crying and she said it was nothing. But he knew what was going on. He understood it and yet she wouldn't turn to him. Luna was trying to handle everything by herself, but that wouldn't do. If something like this happens again, she would end up bearing it all alone once more. That's why he wanted her to learn to reach out and ask for help. So this time, he wouldn't be the one to ask her. He said that it was impressive enough that she was the head of a trading company, especially when they were the same age. She said that her father passed away and her mother fell ill, so she was the only one left to take over. But she could have handed it off to someone else, yet she chose not to. He said that she must truly love the Moonsdrop Trading Company, and she said she did. Like her father, she wanted to bring in useful tools and delicious foods and offer them to townspeople to see them smile. Building a company like that was her dream. Precisely because it was something precious to Luna, she mustn't lose sight of what truly mattered, of what must be done. He said he wished he could have met her father and asked what kind of person he was. She said that he was a gentle father, but when it came to business, he was strict. He asked what way he was strict. and she mentioned how he taught her that before selling goods, she must first learn proper manners toward their customers and toward the colleagues they worked alongside. Business only exists because of the customers, the producers, and the merchants who connect them. They should never forget that. Rick figured that it was about thinking of the customers and not acting alone. But working together, with everyone, was the message. He told her that he didn't have anyone like that in his life, but she had so many companions in this town, so he envied her. Luna realized that she never truly understood her father's words. Rick asked what she was going to do now. Even though it might be too late, she decided to bow her head to everyone and ask if there might be a better way to face this together, and search for a solution. Rick was glad that she had finally made the decision to rely on her companions and said he would help too. Luna wasn't sure if that would be alright because even though he was her friend, he once part of the trading company. Rick stopped her mid-sentence and said that the reason was enough to offer his help. Since he had already done so much for her, she felt like she shouldn't rely on him any further. Rick asked her to share with him her honest feelings. She said she wanted to protect the trading company her father built, and asked Rick to lend her his strength. The Whale's trading company has resorted to all manner of underhanded tactics, and Rick was dedicated to making sure they would pay for this. Rick suddenly noticed that Luna was so close to him. He instinctively pulled her into an embrace, and he was far too conscious of it now. He didn't even know how he spoke to her before. It seemed that Luna realized this now too, and they separated. She said they should go ahead and ask everyone for their help. But before that, Rick had something he would like to take care of first if that was alright with her. He asked her not to speak to anyone regarding what he was about to do. Luna was too excited and swore not to tell anyone. Rick used his sacred Genesis magic. The reason Eldorado's salt tasted better was that it contains a high concentration of magnesium chloride. In other words, the people of this world had been eating nigari. He decided to picture seawater drawn into salt fields, then dried by the sun and wind, using the traditional sun-dried salt method, and that should yield a mineral-rich, flavorful salt. Curious, Luna asked what he was doing. He asked her to taste the salt, and when she did, she noticed that it tasted delicious. There was no bitterness at all, and she had never tasted salt this good before. He asked her to try that one as well and gave her a cucumber. He said that it was a cucumber sprinkled with that salt from earlier. Luna was shocked by how good it tasted. Rick was proud of himself for this success. He said he thought letting people taste it first might convince them to buy it rather than suddenly announcing that there was a new kind of salt. She found this plan incredible, and it wasn't just the magic that transformed the salt, but the idea of serving food made with it before selling a product with no track record was brilliant. Rick only copied the method from the previous world, but he thought it might be considered revolutionary in this world. All that was left was to enchant the remaining jars. Luna apologized for pushing everything onto him and felt bad for not being able to help at all. Rick told her that they had the base bacteria ready this time, so it didn't cost much MP, and without them, it would have taken him days to produce. She was a bit relieved because she helped him. He said that she was the only one who could sell this. While they were talking, Thomas came. Rick asked what the matter was, and Thomas said Luna should be informed. He heard it from a farmer who had dealings with the Whale's trading company that they brought along some rather unsavory types for the price negotiations and took advantage of the situation, forcing him to sell at a shockingly low rate. Luna couldn't believe they would use such methods. Thomas said it was disgraceful, but even if the customers knew that, they might still choose the cheaper options. But for merchants who understand the circumstances, to conduct business that way was simply unacceptable. Luna felt the same and said it was as though she was denying her father's Moon's drop trading company's principles. Luna thanked Thomas for informing her. He said it wasn't the kind of talk that wins votes. She said that it made her even more determined, and besides, she had just thought of something brilliant. In the next scene, Karen and Maris were telling people that they had freshly prepared salt-sauteed vegetables and asked them if they would like to taste them. The people started gathering for tasting and found them delicious. Thomas had no idea that there would be a way to sell it like this. Luna said the tasting of the new salt was Rick's idea, and they wouldn't let the vegetables grown by their farmers go to waste. Now this is where the counterattack began. Luna and Rick went around the shops again, asking them to do test sales of the new salt. Everything was proceeding smoothly, or so they thought. Maris called for Luna and said there was a big problem. Worried, they rushed to her asking what was wrong. She said that it sold out immediately because the reviews were so good. Every shop that gave free samples sold out the products immediately. As soon as customers tried it, it was sold out. Luna and Rick were thrilled. If it becomes popular and sells, their debts could be repaid, and in fact, this could even be a chance to appeal for the election. The Whale's company men came again asking what this ruckus was. They asked if they had lost their minds because they couldn't get decent goods anymore. They were the ones who harassed the greengrocer. Luna asked if they needed something. He said he figured she might be planning to give up on tomorrow's election and said he was just gathering his friends together. Luna said there was no need for concern. He told her that there was no need to act tough. The product she was betting on didn't sell, and she was saddled with massive debt and unsold stock. He suggested she give up the election and hand over her salt to the Whales Trading Company instead, under the condition that she would become the servant of Master Whales. The others started laughing, thinking this was perfect. The shopkeepers asked Gonza what nonsense he was talking about because they came to ask Luna if she had any stock left, because their salt had sold out. The ones who couldn't sell were they, the Whales Trading Company. Gonza was confused because customers would obviously buy the same goods from them if it were 2 silver coins cheaper, and asked if they were too stupid to even count money. Just as Rick thought, they were blaming their own mistakes on the customers. Luna couldn't believe he would say this to the customers and asked if he was really a member of the Merchants Guild. Gonza said thanks to the Whales Trading Company, customers could shop cheaply. If Lord Whales weren't around, they would only be able to buy things at outrageous prices like expensive salt, for example. Luna asked if selling quality goods at a high price was a crime. The choice belonged to the customers, and she believed their salt was tastier than theirs. Gonza found her funny because it was from the same place of origin. He told her to let them taste this moon's drop salt of hers. They gave him some, and he looked carefully at the grains, and they looked fine. He wondered if that alone could change the taste. When he tasted, the word delicious came out of his mouth automatically. The others were shocked that he reacted like that, and they tried to. They also found it better, and compared to this, Dordland salt was garbage. The taste made them slip out of their true feelings. He didn't think it would actually taste this good and asked where this came from. He suddenly grabbed a brick and said there would be no problem if this had never existed from the start. Before throwing the brick at her, he said they were going to die. But Rick wouldn't let this happen, and used Windshield Creation Holy Magic to protect Luna. But the others said blocking it with magic was useless, as no one could beat Gonza's power. His strength stat was off the charts, and on top of that, he was using a strength enhancement skill too. Rick asked why he was suddenly doing this. He said that Whales even gave them a role to play and they would eliminate everything that gets in Whales Trading Company. Salt and the Brat too. Rick told him that this was a crime, but he didn't seem to care about that. He wanted to handle it however he liked. He said that he had killed countless people and yet he could still walk through the city like this, thanks to Master Whales' protection. Townspeople could hear his words. If people see thugs like this being allowed to run wild, they would believe Whales was in league with the soldiers, and there was no way they could let Whales win. But he was struggling quite to keep up with his power. Gonza told him that he was going to regret ever stepping up to him, and he was going to die. Rick told Luna to run while she could, but she refused to go because if something happened to him, it would be her fault, and that's why she couldn't just abandon him and run away. Rick was shocked that she was willing to die with him there. His strength stat was lower than Gonza's, and even taking skills ranks into account. In a pure contest of strength, he couldn't beat him. In a straightforward test of strength, he couldn't beat Gonza. Gonza told him that there had been times before when guys strengthened by magic managed to beat him. But still, if it was just a pure contest of strength, he had never lost once. That's why he was sure he would be above some baggage carriers from a hero's party. The others teased Rick for not being able to protect a woman without magic. It was true that with magic the fight would be over in an instant, but if they insisted that much, he decided to beat them with his pride. They thought he was running out of magic as he was trying to block it with his bare hands. Gonza told him that he was going to die, crushed under the power of his muscles. Rick told him that no matter how strong his muscles were, he wouldn't lose. With his frail muscles, he was going to fight back. Harassing the greengrocer, trying to run the salt he poured his magic into, and above all, trying to kill Luna was unforgivable. He was dedicated to breaking this man's pride and forcing him to taste defeat. First, he used Creation Holy Magic to make Skill Enhancement A, and then he reinforced his existing Strengthening E skill itself. Gonza was shocked because he strengthened the skill itself and was a lot stronger than him. Rick said he took pride in his strength and he was going to lose in this contest of strength. Shocked, Gonza had no idea how his muscles were being overpowered by those skinny arms. Rick said his strength was greater than his, and his conted muscles weren't much after all. While pushing him more and more, he said that he was going to pay for putting Luna in danger. After successfully pushing him back, he used this opening and punched him in the stomach. Gonza's friends were shocked that he could lose to some brat. They told Rick that they were going to report this to Whales and he would pay for this. The townspeople were glad that Rick took him down and told them not to come back again. Luna once again felt guilty, but Rick told her that he was able to bring out his strength because she was nearby. She apologized for troubling him. The other complimented how it was wonderful that Rick protected Luna like that, and it was just like watching a hero's tale. At the Whales Company, Whales was furious. Gonza was trying to explain that Rick's power suddenly shot up, but he didn't believe him. He heard that Gonza went around spreading rumors that he killed people while rampaging in the city. Gonza said he wanted to show everyone Master Whale's strength, but this was so unnecessary. No one would vote for a trading company that declared they had killed people. Noise wondered where they got this salt from in the afternoon all of a sudden. Wales was furious because tomorrow was the election, and he would never have thought two unexpected things would happen. Noise told him that, as a result of the investigation, at this point, the approval ratings of Lord Wales and Luna were evenly matched. Wales wasn't expecting that because Noise told him that he had the lead all along. Given the little time left, bad information for them wouldn't spread that widely across the city, and their only weapon was that salt. Considering the goods the Wales Trading Company had provided and its contributions to the townspeople, its achievements surpassed those of the opponent. It was hard to believe they had fallen completely at a disadvantage, but Wales wanted a guaranteed victory. Noise told him that Naval had already spoken regarding the coat, and he said there was a plan to ensure Lord Wales's absolute victory. He asked what kind of plan it was, and while Noise was explaining that, Gonza couldn't believe what he was hearing. Wales found this plan really reliable. Noise also made preparations just in case he lost. He said that unforeseen accidents happen all the time in the world after all. The election day finally arrived, and Maris and Rick wished they could vote too. Karen and Dago said they voted in Luna's place. Thomas was also there to watch over it. After all, Zuriel's voter turnout exceeded 90%. It's the election everyone was watching. Karen said the ballots were collected and counted inside that building where the guards were stationed. Rick wanted to probe it and used his detection skill to check. He saw the election supervisor, and Noise and Naval were with him too. He wondered what they were plotting and noticed that there were 2 ballot boxes. He used the detection skill to see what was inside, and just as he thought, they were up to a very cliché way of cheating. Karen saw Luna talking to Wales. Wales found her bold for coming here to witness her own defeat and told her that she should have yielded the candidacy to him from the start. Luna told him that she wasn't going to lose and she had strong allies by her side. She was going to defeat him and build a city where everyone could live in peace. Wales told her that she should say such things once she was the representative. As long as he was here, such a future would never come. Luna was going to make sure to return those very words to him. Sparks were flying between them. Even gentle Luna couldn't stomach the Wales Trading Company's methods. In this world, at least in this city, the system wasn't as well regulated as in Japan, so the powerful do as they pleased. For clean politics, Luna must win no matter what. He hoped that citizens didn't decide on short-term whims, but cast their votes with long-term goals in mind. Captain Neld was coming out, and Rick figured that he was Naval's father and that he was the one entrusted with overseeing the election. He told the crowd to wait here until it was finished, and they would now begin counting. The situation was bad because they didn't know how many here were under Wales's influence. But if the ballots were counted in that sealed room, Luna would lose. He raised his hand while thinking he had to stop this no matter what. He suggested counting them here, so that everyone would see the results immediately and share in excitement. Wales told him not to be ridiculous because the counting would take place in the back room as always. Rick asked if there was a reason ballots couldn't be counted here. For example, it would make cheating impossible. Wales was furious and said it was a baseless claim, but Rick already had proof, and he was going to make them reveal it in front of everyone. The others found it interesting too, because if there was no cheating, then there was no problem. Even people who supported Wales were okay with it. Luna said she had no objections either. Everyone waited for Wales's answer, but he said he had never heard of counting ballots like that, and it had always been done in the back room of the polling station. And he said there was no need to change the method. Rick didn't know how long Wales had even been in Zurich, but that was nothing more than a hotbed for fraud. Rick told him that that was different from what he said yesterday. He reminded Wales that he would listen to everyone's voices, challenge new ideas, and move stagnant Zul forward. The citizens wanted the ballots counted here, and instead of clinging to old methods, he should honor his campaign pledge, and it was time to challenge something new. Wales told him that it wasn't for an outsider to say that and told Nell to take them to the back room and start counting. The townspeople started to get suspicious of Wales and wondered if he was hiding something. Noise told Wales that the ballot box would be used anyway, and they should go with the flow here. To the citizens, there was only one ballot box, so he should be confident. Wales changed his whole attitude and said he lost his composure. He said he would grant his request. Everything was going smoothly for Rick. Wales asked Neld to bring the box. He said that he thought reforms should wait until after he was officially elected, but he might cling too tightly to Zuriel's traditions. As Neld was bringing the ballot box, Rick used whirlwind creation magic and made him fall. The box fell, and the votes started falling out of it. The people started looking at the votes and couldn't find any votes for Luna. One of them asked if there was anyone who was holding a slip with Luna's name on it, and there wasn't. A soldier appeared and brought the real box. The people were telling him that if he really thought he could become Zuriel's representative with such decency, and couldn't believe Neld was also in this. Wales wanted to save himself only, so he started scolding Neld and said this was an insult to the election. Neld said this wasn't true and he knew he was placing pre-marked ballots in the box. His son told him about it. Marcel didn't expect Navel to do that. Wales told Nalb that he didn't know anything and he had never associated with such people. He asked Noise to come because people started rushing to him to catch him. Noise threw smoke bombs at them and ran away. Neld started crying his eyes out, trying to explain that they had no choice and that they were forced into it. The soldiers told him to stop this. Neld said if this continues, his treatment would end, but he didn't care about that. He said that he remembered the great cause he once swore to, and there was no need to forget it. He told Neld to let them atone for their sins. Thus, with the vote conducted fairly, the new representative of Zurich was decided. With a turnout of 92%, the results were 2,128 to 2,512, and Luna had been selected. Luna couldn't believe her eyes. Rick was so happy that she won and defeated Wales. Out of happiness, Luna first hugged Rick and thanked him for everything. Rick said he only helped a little because he believed someone as wonderful as Luna should be the representative. Ever since she met him, he had always helped her, and she was truly grateful for that. Everyone started calling him Luna's boyfriend and told them to save the rest for when they were alone together. The men were glaring daggers at him. Luna remembered that her mother was waiting for the report at home too. But first, she needed to complete the election formalities. Meanwhile, Wales was hiding in his building. He asked Noise if the preparations were ready. He said he had paid him well, and failure would not be tolerated. Wales wanted to kill Rick and Luna together for ruining his plans. First, he was planning to destroy the Moon's trading company, and then he would cast them into utter despair.